Alright, today's video is the Super Noob's Budget Beginner Guide to Shooting Bullets a really long ways away. This is not the tactical, cover everything, be a sniper guide to being awesome. This is, I want to shoot long distance, I want to have fun, and I want to get started on a budget, and I want to put some bullets on some targets at distances that I've never done before and learn as I go. So that's kind of where we're coming from. That's where I came from, so that's where I want to speak from a position of, I have no tactical background, having a good time doing it safely and learning as you go. Let's get started. All right, let's start out with gear, and we're gonna go quickly. This is not gonna cover everything. Again, very beginner. So if you're on a budget, I would probably start looking at the Thompson Center compass rifles in 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor. You could do 243 or 270. You could even do 223 with a heavy bullet if you load your own. And we're talking sub 1,000 yards. This is your first time shooting past 100, past 200. We're going 500 to 800, 900 yards. Any of those calibers will do it just fine. That gun's gonna cost you about 300 bucks. Put a cheap scope on it. I know everyone's gonna flame me for this, but we're talking about the beginner's budget guide for noobs. So if you're like me, you're probably trying to save every penny. I started with a Sightmark Core TX, cost me like 200 bucks. What you do need is adjustable turrets, either in MIL or MOA. I'm not gonna explain everything about what those are. Please go do research. This video is not gonna explain every single detail about long range shooting. So you need adjustable turrets. You don't necessarily need holdover reticles, fancy reticles in your scope. I do have a scope with MOA holdover reticles. And I love it. It was well worth the upgrade, but I started with just a basic crosshair, and then I just dialed everything. So that will work. You can get a scope for about 200 bucks to put on the $300 Thompson compass. I am still using a bipod from Amazon that was like 20 or 30 bucks, and it shoots just fine. I mean, would I prefer to have a more expensive one? Sure, but it works. So get yourself a decent, cheap bipod to go with your setup. And then you're gonna want a rear bag. Just grab some rice, put it in a bag, and stick that in a tube sock, and you've got yourself a rear bag, and you should be pretty close to getting ready to go. What you'll need next is some ammo. If you're just getting started, you're probably just gonna buy some ammo. I'm still using the S&B brass because I shot so much of it. I hand load now, but I started just shooting really what most people would consider like not good enough ammo for long range. It worked fine. The very first time I shot at 600 yards, I had 3 impacts out of 3 shots. And you know, I had a good time doing it, and I did it on a cheap rig. I am shooting and have been shooting the Ruger Precision rifle. Obviously you need some earplugs, and you're gonna want a ballistics app. I use one called Ballistic Arc on my phone. I like it a lot, but in order to fully understand it, you're gonna need to understand your distances, your velocities. So you're gonna need to do some homework. I'm not gonna hand you all of that in this video. I highly recommend Ryan Kleckner's information. He has a great book, and he has a lot of good videos, so you're gonna wanna do some supplemental research, but you can do it for free. I have never taken a class, I have no formal training, and I have no military background, but I'm able to shoot pretty well and have a good time, and I really enjoy it. And this is kind of how I did it. So hopefully this will help you get started quick and easy and cheap. So to get on target past 500 yards, you're probably going to need a $200 to $300 scope with adjustable turrets. You're gonna need a $300 rifle. You're gonna need whatever ammo you can afford. If that's cheap ammo, great. If it's expensive ammo, great. You're gonna need a rear bag and a bipod. All said, we're talking probably if you really pinch your pennies, you might be talking $600 to $700 to be able to get on target and have fun past 500 yards, probably out to 1,000 without too much trouble. Are you gonna have the best stuff ever? No. Are you gonna get flamed by some people for pinching pennies? Probably, but who cares? You're gonna have fun. If you have questions, I would love for you to drop them in the comments section. So drop me a comment if you're interested. I'll make more videos about specific things. We can do gear videos, we can do guides to you know, how to get on target, exactly how to calculate your bullet drop and your velocity for your first shots. I'd be happy to do those videos. This is not that, this is just a summary. All right, so now once you've got whatever gear you've decided you can afford and that you're gonna buy, you need to get out there and shoot. What I did was I zeroed at 100 and then I backed off 100 yards every time and confirmed my dope, which is basically dope is guess of where you think it's going to hit. You try the shot, you adjust. Once you get good hits, you write down your numbers so you can remember them later. So I did that in 100-yard increments all the way out to where I knew I was going to shoot, which is about 600, 700, 800 yards out here is about as far as I can go. So I did that in 100-yard increments, wrote it all down in this super cheap little composition book. It's just got all my dope in it from when I was starting, and you know, that cost 50 cents. And then as you go, you'll build up the confidence. If you can get on at 100, you can get on at 200. If you can get on at 200, you can get on at 3, and so on and so forth, as long as you go in 100-yard increments. So that's how I recommend starting out and actually getting the bullets on target at longer and longer distances. Of course, you're going to want to do some research and some learning about wind and drop and all of that stuff, but it'll come as you experiment, as you learn, as you do more research. All right, so let's keep this simple. I put the targets out and I'm shooting across the field. I put the targets out there. I know where I put them. I marked them using GPS, and then I know where I'm shooting from. So I know my ranges, which when you're getting started is great. Don't bother trying to figure out the range. Don't bother buying a range finder. You don't need it. When you're just starting, you probably know your ranges. If you're at a range, like an actual range, they're gonna have a range card with known distances. So you really don't need a rangefinder. You really don't need to learn how to calculate distances using reticle markings. At some point you should, if you want to. It's fun. But to start out, you probably already know your distances. Just use your phone. Use some kind of, like if you use Ballistic Arc, which is my favorite software, you can mark your targets and already know, and it calculates it all for you. And again, at some point, if you want to, you should learn all the math involved and do the calculations yourself if you want to. But to begin with, keep it simple, keep it easy. Skip the wind meter, skip the rangefinder, and just look up your local weather. What I did is I'd use my phone, pull up the weather, and the weather would say it's an 8-mile-an-hour wind, whatever it might be, and then wherever I'm at when I'm shooting, I just look at where it's coming from and use that to input data into my ballistics calculator. You don't need to spend money on a rangefinder and an anemometer when you first get started. I still don't have either of those because I have found that I just don't use them right now in the way that I'm shooting personally. At some point, you should pick them up if you want to. We're ready to shoot, got the mag in. We're gonna send a bullet down into the chamber, lock it down, and the first target we're going for is just shy of 600 yards. We're shooting in about a 12-mile-an-hour wind. So let's get behind the gun. All right, got the rear bag settled in here. Now, I will often, when shooting targets that are on the ground, dial less elevation than it says, whatever my calculation might be, because if I miss, I want to miss short so I can see the splash and adjust for it. It can be very challenging spotting your own shots when you don't have anybody to help you and you're getting started. So if you miss short and you see the splash, you can help make some adjustments for yourself. That's what I like to do. Okay, I was a quarter target high and a quarter target left. There it went. Second shot, 600 yards, 12-mile-an-hour wind. Now, there's a lot of debate about whether or not loading your own ammo is actually cheaper than buying match-grade ammo and just shooting. Right now, ammo is so expensive that I'm probably saving 50 cents every time I pull the trigger, which translates into like $5 a mag. Every time I shoot 10, I'm saving $5, which is a pretty big deal. When I started reloading, I bought, and I still have a lot of it, the cheapest reloading stuff I could that would get the job done. I probably spent $300, $350 on reloading stuff, and I'm very happy with the results. So at 50 cents, every time I shoot, if I shoot 600 rounds of hand loads, my reloading equipment pays for itself. Now you can get carried away and you can buy more and more reloading equipment, more and more toys and gadgets, and at some point then, of course, it becomes more expensive, but you know, there's an argument to be made either way in terms of saving money reloading. You'll probably notice in the shot footage that I'm shooting at orange things out there. They're just bricks. They're like 1 MOA sized bricks. I don't buy them that way. They're just more or less about that size. Like yard pavers that are just left over. I found some at my house. People have them around. And I paint them orange using marking paint, so they're very visible. That's what I like to do. And when you do hit them, they explode, you knock them over. I also have a very large piece of scrap steel that I painted an orange silhouette on that I will use to shoot at long distances. So you can really shoot pretty much whatever you want, but orange marking paint makes it very visible. Man, looking at the mirage out there, it's just dead flat left to right. It's actually probably quarter value, but it's windy. So we're going out to just under 700 yards, I think about 690 yards here on this next shot. This is going to be a fun one to watch in the scope cam. So let's send this and see what happens. I got 3 shots in the mag. Wow. First one going out. Well, that was a hit. It was a little low and left. Let's try a couple more, see if we can't finish it off. Put it out of its misery. Oh, never mind. It fell over from the other hit, so now I can't even see it. All right, well, apparently I hit it and then it fell over while I wasn't looking. So, there it is. 5 rounds, 2 targets, each one about 1 MOA from 500 and then almost 700. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a good time. You guys want to know what I'm shooting? I'll show you. This is the Ruger Precision Rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor. That is a Diamondback Tactical on top because, you know, I have some money but not a ton. I have changed the grip out to an MDT grip. I find the stock to be just fine for me. Bipod is still pretty cheap. This is the GoPro mount that totally doesn't get in the way of the scope at all. This is the APA Fat Bastard Gen 2 4-port brake. I got the scratch and dent because it was, you know, cheap. This is a cheap Amazon rear bag that I filled with aquarium stone. And I've got the Vortex bubble level. And then these are my hand loads. Right now I'm loading 140 grain Hornady boat tails in front of Shooter's World powder on S&B brass that I just had because that's what I started shooting when I started. And hopefully the video turned out cool. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments box. I really want to encourage everyone to get out there and shoot safely and try it. You don't need to spend a ton of money. My total rig right now is probably like $1,600–1,700 bucks. So, you know, you can go somewhere from like $500–600 on the cheapest end all the way up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 plus for totally custom rigs and anything in between. But just get out there and shoot, do it safely, do it carefully. Leave me questions, leave me comments. I love shooting long range, it's my favorite. So I'd be happy to do more videos. Have fun, get out there and do it.